Hey guys, it's Ozzy Lopez with Keller Williams Realty, and in this video we're going to go over what happens during the last week of a transaction, okay? And I'm going to go over the sequence of events that happens from a buyer's standpoint, from a buyer's actual side of the transaction. So if you're a seller watching this video, this still applies to you because it's good for you to know what's happening on the other side, okay? But this is going to let you know what the sequence of events look like, so that if there's a delay in one of those events, it's obviously going to push the rest because it's sequential. It's going to push the rest forward, and that might cause a delay in closing. That's why I want you to know what happens, so that if you see something happening, you can be like, oh, we're probably going to have a later closing, or the date's going to be pushed forward. Let me just say this though. Even though here I'm going to go into detail and I'm going to really pull the curtain back to let you know what happens behind the scenes, my job as your real estate agent is to make it as simple as you would like it to be. So if you're like, hey Ozzy, I don't really care about none of that stuff, just tell me what I got to do, when I got to do it, and when can I get my keys, then I'm happy. Cool. Let me know, and that's how brief and straight to the point I'll make it for you, because that's my job, is to make it mold this transaction to be how you would like it to be. Now, if you want the details, watch this video, right? If not, exit this video. But if you want the details and you're curious or fascinated to see what happens behind the scenes, tag along for the next 4 or 5 minutes. We're going to talk about this, and then I'll give you a couple pro tips at the end as well, okay? All right, so what happens in the last week or so of a transaction? Easy. Your financing is wrapped up, is done, and your lender says, hey buyer, which is you watching this video, because remember we're talking about the last week in the perception of a buyer, in the transaction side of a buyer, not from a seller standpoint, but from a buyer standpoint. So anyways, the lender calls you, the buyer, and says, I'm done with your loan, there's nothing else for me to do. What he does, or she, is he or she sends your loan docs, your loan documentation, over to the escrow officer. Who's the escrow officer, by the way? It's that neutral third-party professional that actually handles the transaction. I don't handle the transaction. I represent you, my client, right? If you're watching this and you're my client, I represent you and I help you. I guide you. But the escrow officer processes the transaction, and they're the neutral third-party professional that does that. So they're not on our side and they're not on the seller side. If you're a buyer watching this video. All right. So the lender, the loan officer, that's what LO means. The loan officer sends your loan docs to the escrow officer. Once the escrow officer has your loan docs, he or she then looks through it, make sure everything's okay. He or she then has to set an appointment with the buyer, with you, right? And you then have to sit in front of a notary and sign everything in front of a notary. And if it's two buyers, spouses, brothers buying property together, everybody has to be there. Everybody has to go and sign at that title company. Sometimes you're signing in front of the escrow officer themselves. Sometimes they have a team of notaries that you're signing in front of. But regardless, they're the same team, okay? So anyways, buyer or buyers sign the documents. Here is my little image of documents, right? But I put 2 pieces of paper because actually, just a little fun fact, what you're signing is, the majority of it is your loan documents and then some real estate paperwork in there as well, okay? So all of it is going to be a blend of your financing, your loan documentation, and real estate documentation as well. That's really all you're doing. Now, because that's that, none of it should be of a surprise. So as you're going over the signing and you're going over each piece of paper, it should all be familiar to you. It should all be things that either your real estate agent or your lender has told you or talked to you about or asked you about. Okay, so nothing in there should be of a surprise. If there is, please call your real estate agent or call your lender and be like, hey, there's something different here. You said something different, like I'm a little confused. But it should all be the same, okay, that your professionals have already brought you up to speed way beforehand, usually at the beginning of a transaction. Okay, so anyways, once they have the docs, once the escrow officer has the signed documents, she then needs, and she could be a she or a he, the escrow officer then needs another thing, the money. The money from two sources, the buyers, right? And the loan, the financing, the big moolah. So once the escrow officer gets your closing funds and the lender's funds, now she has everything she needs. That's why I put escrow officer here again. It's just a little bit further in time because sometimes this process takes a little bit of time right here, right? The wiring sometimes takes some time for funds to arrive at their account. The processing the documentation, setting up the appointment, all of that could take some time. It could be the same day. It could take 1 day. It could take 2 days. So this is the escrow officer now, I want to say a day or two into the future, but now with all his or her needed items. Okay? Okay. Now, once the escrow officer has this, the buyer's funds, the lender funds, the signed paperwork, now she can do something called recording. Recording is basically a simple process. The escrow officer tells Clark County, tells the county, hey county, I just want to let you know that this person over here bought this property from this person. So can you please record that sale? Once Clark County gets that notification, they then record it officially in their records, and now you've officially, as the buyer, have become the new homeowner slash owner of a piece of land, right? Here or wherever you're buying home. Now, if you're a seller, you've officially been recorded as somebody who has sold their property. So it actually doesn't become official. And here's where my first pro tip comes. A lot of people think that it becomes official over here at the signing. Some people think it becomes official once they sign, meaning a little bit after. Some people think it becomes official once they wire their closing funds. And I'm like, no, there's still work to do. And it doesn't become official until we've recorded with the Clark County. And where my pro tip is that's where you actually get your keys. Yay! So not until all of this happens do you get your keys, all right? So that was my first pro tip because I've noticed that that's a common misconception normally with the general public is they think that they're going to get their keys somewhere around here. Hey Ozzy, I got my lender said they're done. Can I get my keys? Whoa, hold on. We still got this whole process to do. And this could take, it's very rare for it to be the same day, you guys. It's very rare, very rare. So if we're supposed to close on a certain day and your lender says that they finally got done with the loan docs and they're finally sending the loan docs to the escrow officer that day, I'm gonna be like, oh, crunch time. I don't think we're gonna close today. So the best practices, and we're almost done with this video. Best practices is for the lender to do that before the close date. We want the close date to be here. Okay, this is where I'm going to put COE, close of escrow. We want the close of escrow to be here. So ideally, we want to do this a day before. So I actually want the lender to do this 2 days before because there's enough breathing room. Guys, remember, pro tip number 2, real estate is just a bunch of people doing things to move the ball forward. So if one person drops the ball, guess what happens to the sequence of events, right? You already know. So real estate is just a bunch of people. So here's pro tip number 2. This is why it's good to watch this video because if you know the sequence of events, you can keep an eye on it as well, along with your real estate agent, and you would be able to then pivot if something went, if somebody dropped the ball and something went sideways, and now there's a delay in closing, you would be able to pivot, right? What do I mean? If you see that when you wire your closing funds, that the bank, there was a glitch, and now it's going to take an extra day to go from your account to the escrow's account, then that's going to delay the close of escrow, the date. So then we're not going to record. So then I'm not going to be able to give you your keys as the new homeowner, because if everything else delayed, right? It's a sequence. It's sequential. So what I mean by that, my pro tip number 2, my moral of the story is that if you see something like that happening, a little hiccup somewhere, you can then pivot and have your plan B ready, like your moving truck. Be like, hold on, moving truck, reverse it. We're actually not closing that day. Keep it over there. You don't have to pack just yet. Hold on. So that's why I wanted to share this video, so that you could pivot if something happens. And something. What's my percentage of something happening normally in the normal landscape of real estate? There's an 80% chance that your transaction might be delayed. Just because, like I said, real estate is nothing but people doing things. And in a real estate transaction, there's an average of 42 people doing something to move the ball forward. Think about it, guys. Escrow, inspections, appraisal, insurance, warranty, notary, banks, agents, listing agents, sellers, lawyers. There's like around 4 assistants and runners, and I mean there's a bunch of people. Whenever you're buying a house, there's an average of 42 people involved in a transaction. So the whole point is somebody's going to drop the ball. A few people are going to drop the ball. But our job, real estate agents, is to babysit everybody. And once they drop the ball, pick that back up, get back to work, right? Real estate agents should actually be called babysitters, because we're babysitting everybody. So hopefully you got a lot of information here. Now you know what I'm going to be babysitting if you're buying a home with me. Now you know what I'm going to be babysitting towards the last week of the transaction. So if you want to babysit that with me, by all means. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if you're like, hey Ozzy, that's too much for me. I already have life to worry about. Just let me know when. Let me know if something changes, and let me know when I can get my keys. I'll make it nice and simple for you. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this was helpful. Take care. Again, my name is Ozzy with Keller Williams Realty. Bye.